What's good, Gacha gang? Kawaii50 here with another FGO video, here to talk about your boy, Edmond Dantes, in the era of Skadi support, where we can go over the best craft essences, allies, and command codes for him in this new meta of the game. If this video helps you out, be sure to go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't been here before. And as always, we do have links to the Discord as well as the Patreon if you like the job I'm doing down in the description as well. Alright, let's dive in. So gang, the stats of Edmond Dantes are one of the primary reasons why he is so coveted in this era of the Skadi system. With a quick Arts Buster deck and a quick AoE Noble Phantasm, Dantes is ready to do some serious 3-turn farming to help make your life easier. And part of the reason he is so good at that is the man's insane attack stat. With a max attack of 12,641, that is the 6th highest attack in the entire game. Now, of course, since Dantes is the Avenger class, he's going to be dealing a lot of neutral damage against his enemies, not really going to have that class advantage, but the fact that his attack stat is just so tremendously high, plus those boosts Skadi can give him, make him a very formidable opponent. His NP per hit is pretty solid at a 0.62% with a 5% gain when attacked, and a couple of passives on him really help him when it comes to fulfilling this role as well. His star absorption though, only okay at a 30, but gang, when you are running the Skadi system, you are more often than not getting those 50 crit stars per turn with double Skadi, so that's not really as huge a concern as one might think. Two of Edmond Dantes' skills are going to help him craft a pretty substantial NP gain. Avenger rank A increases NP gain when he is damaged by 20% at the cost of decreasing the debuff resist for all allies except himself by 10%. This demerit's not a big deal, nothing to really worry about. His third skill, Self-Restoration Magical Energy, rank D, increases his NP gauge each turn by 3%. A nice, solid 3% NP gain can be the difference between looping and not looping. This has helped me more often than not, I'll tell you that. And his other skill, Oblivion Correction, rank B, increases his critical strength by 8%, which is very helpful considering you're going to be generating a ton of crit stars, and those crit stars are gonna lead to crits, which are now gonna deal more damage. Now, taking a look at the skills of Edmond Dantes, we are going to look first at Iron Determination rank EX. This allows Dantes to ignore invincibility for 1 turn, increases his own attack by 30 to 50% for 1 turn, and also increases his own debuff resistance by 14 to 32% for 3 turns, and this is on a 6-turn cooldown. Now gang, I know there are some people out there that are going to suggest that you max this skill first because of the damage potential, but based on how I've personally been using Edmond Dantes, how I sort of decided to experiment with him when leveling up his skills, I'm actually going to recommend you max this second. And the reason for that is I found that a lot of the damage on Dantes' Noble Phantasm, a lot of that overkill potential comes from the support of your other Skadis and maybe even your waiver that you are using to buff up Edmond Dantes in the Skadi system. Now, this skill will help you get a very solid 3rd turn clear. I'm not going to argue against that. That is very huge. But when it comes to making sure you get through your first 2 waves getting up to the boss, this skill is not nearly as helpful as his second. This still has some good priority, but I'm going to say max this second. Dantes' second skill is Golden Rule rank A, which increases his NP generation rate by 20 to 50% for 3 turns on a 6-turn cooldown. This is the skill I recommend that you max first, because this is going to allow Edmond Dantes to generate even more Noble Phantasm gain off of his overkills on the first 2 waves. It's very important that he is able to get to at least 50% NP charge, so one of your 2 Skadis can buff him up for the following wave, especially if you're running a Kaleidoscope on the first turn. Definitely max this first. As for what is universally considered Dante's least important skill, it's Wisdom from Desperation, rank A. Now this reduces the enemy's NP gauge by 1 and removes all debuffs from Edmond Dantes, and also grants an additional 10 to 20 critical stars. Now, the main reason you want to max this last is because it doesn't really fit in the mantra of the Skadi system. You're already getting those quick bonuses on Edmond Dantes' overkill from his Noble Phantasm. You're already generating a bunch of stars. There's going to be very, very few times where you necessarily need to generate those extra critical stars. Now, it's helped me on some final waves, on some end waves where, I maybe need like 5 stars or something like that because I got a bad card draw, but it's never been the determinant for me getting a 3-turn clear. Max this last. Now we're going to talk about Dante's Noble Phantasm, and I'm only going to talk about the strengthened version of it, because let's be real, that is the version you are going to use. On Fair Chateau d'If, deals 800 to 1200% damage to all enemies, and inflicts the Evil Curse status effect on them for 5 turns, which increases the curse damage they take by 100%. On Overcharge, this reduces the enemy's defense by 20 to 40% depending on the overcharge, and also increases the curse damage dealt between 500 and 1500 depending on that overcharge. Now when you've got that increased by 100% from the Evil Curse status, this actually becomes anywhere between 1000 and 3000 curse damage per turn for 5 turns. That can be crazy substantial on some bosses you might be fighting. When it comes to the Skadi system, this isn't really a big deal. I mean, you're probably going to kill the enemies before the curse damage has a chance to take effect, but if you're trying to use Edmond Dantes on some challenge quests, maybe you just like using him that much, or maybe, he is the bonus servant, like the current Summer 3 right now, he is the bonus servant when it comes to dealing damage. You're gonna want that curse damage, and we are actually going to focus on that when it comes to command codes in just a sec. Now, when it comes to leveling his NP, when it comes to using the Skadi system, a lot of people will recommend you have at base NP level 2. Having NP level 2 on Edmond Dantes is a guarantee that your Skadi system is going to work 100% of the time. NP1 is still doable, don't let anyone tell you it's not, it definitely is. Just there might be some times where you have to rely on the following cards in order to clear out a wave against some of the beefier bosses. As for craft essence recommendations on Edmond Dantes, in an optimal world, you pretty much always want to run him with a max limit broken kaleidoscope. Now, I know for a lot of you, this is going to be the whales option, or if you have just a regular kaleidoscope, you are going to need to have a waiver on your team or any other NP steroid character to make up the difference so Dantes can definitely loop on that first turn. But if we're talking all optimal, if we're talking 100% going all in, kaleidoscope is the way to go. Now, this is not to say that there aren't other craft essences you can run on Edmond Dantes, especially if you're using him, say, for specific fights and not necessarily for Skadi system loop farming. Now, when it comes to that, the craft essences I recommend on him are either Imaginary Around or Knights of Marines. Now, Knights of Marines is a very, very good quick craft essence that we got a little while ago. It increases quick performance by 15% when max limit broken, and allows you to start the battle with a 60% NP gauge, also at max limit broke. This can be very, very powerful. And Imaginary Around, just when that's max limit broken, you get a bonus 30% to quick card effectiveness, which is just going to increase Edmond Dantes' overall damage. Now, if you are confident that you are just going to use Dantes for a single AoE NP, and then it doesn't really matter to you if he dies after that, you can of course use the Black Grail or Heaven's Feel on him as well to get that maximized Noble Phantasm damage. Maybe some specific fight calls for it. You're fighting a bunch of different classes in a first wave, or you're fighting a bunch of Berserkers in the first wave. Either way, this will help you. As for Dante's allies, yes, he fits very well in the Skadi system. So, Skahawk Skadi, 2 of them if you can, is going to be your most optimal option when it comes to running Edmond Dantes. However, that is not to say that, say, you need somebody else to fill in those gaps. There aren't other people you can run Edmond Dantes with. For starters, I would like to definitely recommend Osakabe Hime, especially in the event that you do not have a maximum broken kaleidoscope and just have a regular old 80% kaleidoscope. If you have her Chiyogami technique skill at rank 10, that is going to be the 20% NP charge you need to get Dantes full up and ready to go, and then you can just immediately switch Hime out with your other Skahawk Skadi, and everything is gonna be just fine. Now you can also run Edmond Dantes with Artoria Pendragon Rider Alter. She provides Dantes with a significant amount of buffs that are going to end up helping him. Artoria's Summer Sweeper skill is going to increase his attack as well as his quick card effectiveness, and her coaching skill, when it is finally ranked up, is going to give Dantes an increased star rate. It's going to deal some damage to an ally, but then increase his max HP by 3,000 at max level. And it's also going to decrease all of Dantes' skill cooldowns by 1. So this can be very, very potent on him. If you're looking for a freebie option for Edmond Dantes, I can absolutely recommend Rider Ishtar. Rider Ishtar's first skill increases quick, buster, and NP gain effectiveness for all allies. Dante's deck is mainly made up of quick and buster cards, so this is going to help him out a lot. And finally, an underrated servant I always like to mention in these situations is Chiron. Chiron is incredible if you equip Golden Catches the Carp to him and then swap him out so he doesn't steal all of your critical stars. You can give Dantes his Eternal Dedication skill to increase his crit strength and gain critical stars, and then you can also increase the effectiveness of all of his cards with Chiron's Wisdom of the Divine Gift rank A+ skill. Chiron, very, very good if you know how to use him properly. And finally, gang, I've got 4 command codes to recommend to you on Edmond Dantes. Now, these first 2 I recommend to you are designed to be engraved on his quick cards. Now, why do you want to engrave these on his quick cards? Well, because quick cards, when their effectiveness is boosted, also generate NP gain, especially when they crit. So, if you have these cards that can increase the critical star absorption of those quick cards, then you're going to gain additional NP off of it, and that's going to make it easier for Dantes to loop, especially if your setup is a little bit subpar. So to start with, let's talk about this 4-star command code that is in the Summer Festival event, and that is Armament of Triumph. Armament of Triumph increases the critical star absorption of the engraved card by 100%. So you've got a really substantial bonus to that quick card to gain those critical stars and deal that extra critical damage. Now there is a 3-star craft essence that is coming to NA later, and that is the one that carries fortune. The one that carries fortune can only be engraved on quick cards specifically, but it does the same thing as Armament of Triumph, increasing the star absorption of the engraved card by 100%. Honestly, cards like this on your quick servants, on your servants that are designed to do these loops, who you may have, little subpar, maybe they need their skills increased or something like that, I really do consider both of these command codes a must if you are able to get them. The next 3-star command code I like to recommend with Dante's Arts and Buster cards, and this is mainly designed for fights where you are taking him to fight bosses and aren't necessarily using him for farming. And that is Legendary Beast of the Grove. Legendary Beast of the Grove inflicts Curse with 500 damage for 3 turns on the enemy. Now, if you'll remember, Edmond Dantes' Noble Phantasm adds a bonus that increases all curse damage by 100%. Curse damage stacks, so if you say have 2 of these equipped on his Buster cards, and you are hitting your opponent with curses every single turn, while that curse effect from his Noble Phantasm, which is very easy to charge, is continually going on them, you are actually adding up a substantial amount of damage in damage over time to your enemy. A lot of people sleep on those effects like Burn and Curse, but if you're able to build them up in the right ways with the right servants, they can actually be very, very devastating, especially against servants in challenge quests that have naturally high defenses. And finally, to help with looping, something that you would want to use on one of your Arts or Buster cards, I, again, as I have many times in the past, have to recommend Da Vinci Chan. NP damage up by 15% for 1 turn when attacking using the engraved card. very, very strong, especially considering all of Edmond's NP gain is off of the overkill effect that he gets when using his Noble Phantasm. So if you increase that Noble Phantasm's damage, that's conversely increasing your NP gain. NP damage equals NP gain, which equals even more NP damage on the next wave down the line. And there you have it. There is no question that Edmond Dantes is a very powerful servant in the Skadi system lineup, and has evolved with her release to become just a very powerful servant all around. Now, the reason I put out this video, even though Edmond is a very, very old servant, is because 1, his role has changed substantially, and 2, with the introduction of command codes, there are plenty of ways to take his abilities and skills to the next level. Updated guides like this are very, very important as the game continues to evolve. I know other content creators out there have Edmond videos already circulating on the webosphere, but I wanted to go ahead and chuck this out here in an era where Edmond has changed substantially. Be sure to let me know any of your thoughts on Edmond Dantes down in the comment section below. Let me know if there are any allies that you are pairing him with other than, say, Skadi, the obvious one. And if you have pulled for Edmond Dantes on the summer banner that is up right around the time of this video, let me know if you got Edmond Dantes. If you pulled for NP2 Edmond Dantes, let me know if you got NP2 Edmond Dantes. I would love to have him myself, but I gotta save all my Sync Quartz for BB, so NP1 will have to do. This is Kawaii50, hoping you have a phenomenal day. I'll see y'all in the next video.